hopefully all of you have what is the prerequisite, right? So basically you need to have JDK 1.7 or even 1.8 would be fine. That's the first thing you need to download, and it's not specific to any OS. You could run it on Apple or Windows. Okay, so the first step is go ahead and download JDK and do it accordingly if you have a 32-bit or a 64-bit. So once that is done, go ahead and set your Java environment variables. Does anybody have a question on how to download JDK or anything? Or everybody knows that? Okay, so all you need to do here is just go ahead and say Java minus version, and I'm on 1.8, right? So you could do it on 1.8 as well. So how does an AEM distribution, right, look like? So basically it's going to be a jar plus a license file. What is the meaning of jar? Anybody? Right? It's a Java, it's a compressed format, it compressed with all the classes, interfaces, right, packages and everything compressed together is called as a jar. So what version are we going to look at? We are going to look at AEM 6.2. So to start AEM, what is it that I require? I require a license file mandatory. So for example, let's say I go to my instance. So this is the jar and the license. Okay. Now there are two ways in which your AEM instance can run, right? So if you basically see this, anybody knows what are the two ways the AEM instance can run, the two modes of running?
Var and jar, right?
Correct. So that is the distribution. Like
Uh-huh.
when the server starts up, it could either start as author
Authoring
or
and
publish.
publish.
Correct.
Okay.
Publishing. So what is the difference between authoring and publishing? Author environment and publish environment. Anybody?
Yeah, author is nothing but like who is making the changes in the end user file, and publisher is more or like a content publishing, I think.
Correct. So basically, whenever you have a website, right, you don't want the visitors of your website to go and edit the various components in my page, right? So authoring is a mode which is edit mode, right, where the authors of your organization can log in, and it's a editable mode. And publish instance is a read-only mode, which means the visitors of the website, right, log into the publish. Now the question is, does the same instance work as author and publish? Right? Yes, the answer is yes. So how does that happen? We'll understand. So if you see, let me put this on Word. Just give me a minute. Okay. Right. So now AEM can run on two modes. One is the authoring mode, which is the editable mode, and publish, which is read only. Okay. Now the same jar can either run as author or it can run as publish. Okay. Now the next question is, there is a setting that you need to do before you start the instance, and the Adobe recommendation for naming the instances CQ, right, followed by the mode. The modes are either author or publish. So if it's author instance, I will replace this mode here with author. P stands for port number, and this is a port number. So usually for the author instances, run on even numbered ports, right? Which means if you see, I'm running it on 4502. Next, can I have multiple instances running in on my machine, right? That is also possible, right? It is possible to have multiple instances of AEM on your machine. The only thing is port numbers need to be unique, right? You cannot have two instances using the same port. Like for example, let's say I want to have two author instances on my machine. The port numbers need to be unique. So I'd run one instance on 4502 and the other one on 4504, 4506 and so on. Okay. So the port numbers need to be unique. Next, what is the memory recommendation? So basically an AEM instance takes about 2 to 2.5 GB and your OS itself takes around 2 to 2.5 GB. So at least it's good to have 8 GB, and if it's anything above 8 GB, it's going to be good so that you can run multiple instances, or you could run one author, one publish, or two authors, one publish, right, as you need. So if people don't have sufficient RAM, get your machines upgraded. Okay, that's very important. Next, once
Just one
I
question.
yeah.
The port number, how does it assign? Is it during the installation or is it standard port numbers?
The moment you basically start the instance, it is going to start the server on that particular port, whatever you name it. So this has to be free. Like if you say 8080, if you have Skype running, Skype would take 8080. So your instance might not start.
Okay. So how do you identify which port number needs to use it?
In general, no, it's usually 4502, 4504, 4506. Okay. So that is a
Okay.
network question. So in
You
general,
can
how
check
do
the
you do?
running ports at the command line, like net
Net
start
start,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
You go and do a net start and open the port. Right? In general, that's the way
Okay.
you do it.
I have one question, like, so for single instance, so multiple users can access the same, like for the
Right.
other, so I have
Yes.
like three others, so I can, log in with the three different users, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Hey
Let
Rajesh,
me
this is
do this.
Praveen.
Let me do
Just
this. Okay, I'll complete. I have a breakpoint. I'll complete a few points and then make a note of your questions. We will answer those. Make a note of your. We'll answer those like in about 10 minutes because many questions will be answered in the next few points. Okay, so make a note of your questions.
Sure, sure.
The first thing, how do I start my instance? Right. So once I have my JDK and stuff set up, I'm going to hand over this jar and the license. So basically this license, I'm going to hand over the training license to you. Okay, you will have the license, customer name, version, download ID and stuff. Okay, so basically I'm going to hand over this license to you, or give me a minute, let me get the training license. I'm going to create a folder, drop the license here. And let's take this jar. Okay. So once I share this, you're going to get this on Google Drive. Go ahead and download. It's going to be a 473 MB sized file. Place this. Because I have my JDK up and running, I would see a Java icon next to this. The first way of running the server is to go ahead and double click the instance. Okay, that's the first way of starting the server. The moment you double click, you're going to see the port is occupied because I already have an instance running here. I'm going to shut down the running instance. and let's delete this guy. The moment you start an instance, we'll see what happens, right? The first thing is it's going to give you a pop-up, and it's also going to give you a progress bar. Okay, the first time server installation takes about 4 minutes, and subsequently when you try to start your instance, it's going to be a little lesser, like it should start in 100 to 120 seconds. Okay, this again depends on your RAM. And this guy didn't shut down. Okay. So basically when you shut down an instance, just give it like 10 to 20 seconds to release the port, and 1 minute. Okay. So let's go and double click the server. Okay. You see this? Extract. The moment you double click the server, okay, you're going to see the folder here, and the CRX quick start folder automatically gets generated. Okay, that's the first part. And then this is the progress bar. And if you see now, how do I, you might ask me, hey, how do I know what is happening in the backend? Or let's say the server is not starting properly. How do I troubleshoot my instance, right? So to troubleshoot your instance, there is a particular URL that you need to go to. Okay. Now basically what is happening is your server is running on the local host, right? And I don't have a domain as such now, so it's running on my local host on port 4502. So whenever you want to access AEM, so just go to your browser and launch 45 local ports server followed by the port number. Okay, it'll take you to a console. Okay, it says startup in progress. Now while this is starting up, there is something called as, you're going to understand what this is. Go to the system/console. How do I troubleshoot the instance? Go to this URL. It asks you for the username password. I'll go ahead and key in admin. Okay. Now if you see, basically what is happening here, I see that there are some, it's called as bundles here. We don't know what a bundle is yet. And if I see, there are a total of 250 bundles that I see here. Okay, let's give it some more time. So ideally you should have 400 odd bundles, and every bundle also has some kind of a status here, right? So I see that some bundles are inactive, some bundles are in the fragment state, and some bundles are in the install state. So what happens during the startup in the backend? So during startup, the bundles are going to change from the installed to the active state. So these 116 which are active and 126 installed. So after a few minutes, if I refresh, right, you would see more bundles in the active state. Okay. Now once I refresh, right, out of 446, 250 are in the active and 142 in the install. So there is a transition of the bundles from the installed to the active state. Okay, so let's say you're on production and somebody says, hey, I'm not able to start my AEM instance. So what is your first level of troubleshoot going to be? Just go ahead and ensure that all the bundles are in the active state. What exactly are these states? We'll understand when we look at OSGI. At a high level, do you think you understand this? So you see this? More bundles get into the active from the installed, and in the it's fewer in the result. Okay. Now let's go and look at the progress bar. At the end of the startup, all the bundles would ideally be in the active state. If you see, right, I'm almost there, 80% done. Now if I refresh, okay, now it's asking me for my license, right, where it basically prompts for the customer name and the license key. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to open this with Notepad. So customer name is day training. And the key also I need to provide. So I'm going to copy this key here. Okay. Now, once this is done, right, the moment you have successfully started the server, see all 446 bundles are in the active state. It asks you for the username and the password. So I'm going to key in admin/admin. That's the username and password you use. And once you're inside the console, it takes you, this is your index page. You see this? Okay. This is the first way of installing AEM. Any questions till this point on the installation part?
Some bundles are shown as the fragment instead of active. So, do you have any idea what exactly that fragment means?
Yes. Now it's not in the fragmented state, right? So
The
these
active.
ones, okay.
Mhm.
So if you see, this one is actually in the active state, but there is a issue here. It does not show, the status is not changing. But if it was really in the fragmented state, it would have given the name as fragmented. So fragmented means some dependency. So basically a bundle has some packages and some packages are not able to get resolved ideally. So there are some packages in this particular bundle with some Java packages which are not able to get resolved. So we will understand what fragmented is as we go through. But this looks like fragmented, but this is actually in the active state. If it is in fragmented, it should show up in this bar. Anyway, as when we discuss OSJ, we'll talk about the different status of these bundles.
Got it. Thank you.
So while processing, you switch off that so some button like on off. So is it something
Yeah.
killing that?
Now, like let's say I want to shut down the server. Okay, you always need to gracefully terminate the server. Okay, so don't use this close button here. Rather, there is a toggle switch. Okay, click on the off.
Okay.
Okay, that is the way you do it. And now if you refresh, it's still active. So give it some 10 seconds. And then when you refresh,
Coming from your cache or something?
yeah.
And some reason if the server not starts, so where we need to check the
Yeah.
logs.
Yeah, we'll see that. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the system console. Now it says this. So basically the port, it takes about 10 to 15 seconds to release the port completely. Okay, now the second way of starting the server, because this is a jar file, how do you basically launch a jar file in general? How do you execute a jar file?
Through that install in the app server.
No, like to execute, you can say java minus jar and give the name of that jar file, right? So from the command prompt, I'll go and say java minus jar and give the name of this jar file. That's the second way of launching the server. Now, whenever you have any Java application, on the startup, can I allocate memory to my application? Like, let's say if you encounter out of memory errors, what do you usually do?
They will increase the heap size.
You will increase the heap size. How to increase heap size? Any parameters are there?
Yeah, some IMAX and some parameters we have to
Yeah,
pass.
XMX, which is the maximum heap size, and XMS, which is the minimum heap size, right? The same thing, you can also add it here. And along with heap size, is anybody aware of what permanent generation, the perm gen area in memory is? Okay, so basically there is an area in memory called permanent generation. So if you see, okay, so when you have a large enterprise application, you might have multiple classes, objects, variables and stuff. So this permanent generation is a reflection of all the methods, objects, right, which is allocated in your JVM. So it's like a reflection of your entire JVM. So sometimes when you encounter out of memory, and even after increasing the heap size with the minimum and max, if you still continue to have the out of memory errors, you would go and increase the permanent generation memory, right? So now how to add it? Look at this. Minus Java with any minus thing is the parameter. XMX is maximum heap size, and permanent generation is max PRM size. So this is the attribute that you would add. So I'm going to go and execute this command. So all you need to do is open up a command prompt from this location, paste this guy. You see this? It would run on 1.7, not on 1.8. So they removed this guy. So let's go, and I think it's probably because of this guy. Let's remove that PRM size. I call the jar as CQ5 hyphen author hyphen P4502. Okay? Okay, now it starts Java minus jar. We provide this. Now once this is launching. So if you see, this gives you more idea about what exactly is happening. So it's basically trying to start the server on 4502 with these memory requirements, right? It's allocating by default on 1.8, it's allocating 256 M. I'm not able to change this on 1.8, right? That's the error message it threw. And then if I go to my system console, I refresh, right? 381 active, 412. Look at the speed. First, once the CRX quick start folder is generated, the subsequent startups become very quick. Okay, now if you refresh, it should have almost started, I believe. Yeah, you see this? It starts up. You don't need to do this every time. Because I have two licenses, it's giving me a conflict. This is the download ID. Okay. Now I see that this is the second way. Any questions on the second way of installation, guys? Anybody?
Would you be able to copy paste that command into the chat session for everyone so that we have open it?
Yeah, I could do that. I'm anyway going to hand over this notes to you. Okay, so all you need to do is try with this. One, if you want, you can try on 1.7 with maximum PRM size. Otherwise, you could use this. Okay, you could just copy paste. I'm going to share this notes also. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. That would be fine.
Okay.
So I'm actually looking at the started bat. It's actually having the options, right? Whatever you are giving, the max font size and the
Yeah,
max.
now that is the third way. I will show you. We are discussing that is the next thing now.
Okay. Is it not calling that started bat when it is starting up? It is
No,
directly. No.
no, that is the third way.
Okay.
So the quick start folder will be generated only if we run through the command line.
No, the moment you start the installation of AEM, it's automatically, irrespective of any way, the CRX quick start gets generated.
Okay.
Because only first time.
It's a kind of an installation folder of AEM.
Yeah, it's kind of an installation folder where everything within the jar will be extracted and dumped into the CRX quick start. So whatever bundles that you saw, we'll understand when I say what a bundle is, like some jar. It's a nothing but a jar with some metadata. All the classes, everything, the dumps will go and sit inside this CRX quick start.
So second time onwards, it takes a very less time.
Yeah. Okay. Now how to shut down? Right. It's very tempting to go and use this close button, but don't do that. You need to ensure that all the the threads, everything are released properly. So if you see, do a graceful termination. Do a Control C here. And again, it's going to take about 15 to 20 seconds for it to release the port. And now if you go and see, let's refresh the system console. Yeah, it's released the port. So now inside CRX quick start, usually any server, be it your Tomcat or any server, would have something like a bin which will have the startup and the stop scripts. So I will go to the bin folder and you have the start.bat here. Okay, now when I go to the start.bat, right? So somebody asked me, hey, port, if I want to change, how to do it? Right, see here, it's here 4502. And this JVM ops is what I went and copied into my command in the second way. Okay. Now, once I have all of these, right, how to start the server? Just to say, double click on the start.bat. Okay, now let's go and validate my system console. How to troubleshoot something? Go ahead and look at the system console bundles. Okay, now see here 3 active fragments. Somebody asked me fragment states, what is that? So if you see, it's initially it has 3 fragments. So fragment is a portion of a bundle which has dependencies with another bundle. Now if I refresh again, let's wait for it. Now among all the 3 ways that we saw, what do you think is the limitation with the third option of starting the server?
If you're not configured properly through the batch file, it may not start up.
Correct. So to start this, you have to go inside the CRX quick start folder. And when will the CRX quick start folder get generated?
When we initiate the jar file first time.
Which means you have to start the server in the first way by double clicking or through the command prompt. Only then the second time startup you can use this mechanism. You agree with me, all of you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So now if I refresh, right, all 446 bundles are in the active state. Okay. Now what are the 2 view modes in AEM, right? So we need to, anybody knows that? There are 2 views. Till 5.6 there was one particular view, and starting from 5.6 a new kind of view or new kind of an interface has been introduced. Okay, so there are 2 kinds of views. So what is it?
The sidekick that came in after that, right?
Yeah, so the first way is called as EXTJS or classic mode. So people who have worked on 5.5, 5, right? If you see,
classic mode. Okay.
yeah, you would see some kind of a green colored background, and it's been like a legacy view. Let's say I go here. The same index page, basically you need to, nobody can remember all the URLs, so you need some kind of an index page. The index page on classic, if you see, this is the classic view, right? This is the green colored background. These are all the consoles where you can navigate to. Okay, next, the same thing, the same index page URL, I have added this into your class note, so you don't need to worry or write down or type anything. So if you see, right, this is the classic UI. What is the welcome page in AEM? Yeah, there are 2 kinds of views. Yeah, sorry.
Rajesh, I just wanted to suggest one thing. I know that some of them could be in a interview question thing too, right? So they may ask like, what are the 2 types of views and everything. So while you are doing it, maybe you can point out that, hey, note down this. It could be in a probable interview question, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So basically everything in our class notes is like an interview question only. The most important ones I've added. The other ones are in the PDF which I'm going to share.
Okay, that's great then. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the legacy UI, which is a non-responsive authoring framework. So if you try to do this, say this, when the moment you see this scroll bar here, the horizontal ones, it is a non-responsive framework. Next, green colored background. What is this framework based on? See, all these are JavaScripts. Okay. Now let's say I go and open up a page. Right? I'll go to websites. and in geometrics. Okay, any page. Okay, if you see a black colored theme, it is the new latest UI, which is the touch UI, which is a responsive one. So to open any page with a classic, the same thing on classic, look at the way it looks. You need to add something called CF hash. CF means, okay, so this is the page. Okay, this particular area, this left side bar, this is called as the content finder. Okay, this points to all your DAM assets like the images, videos, documents. So see, these are the images, these are the manuscripts, these are the documents, so these are the videos, right? Basically this left side bar is called as the content finder, and this is the abbreviation CF hash. And this is where this floating, if you see this floating palette here, is called as a sidekick. This is where authors log in and drag and drop the components. So for example, if I want to drag and drop a text component, right? So what does the developer see? Author is building this, author is doing everything. Then what is the job of a developer? Any idea?
To create that component which you're dragging and dropping.
Yeah, exactly. To
To
build
create
the
the templates.
component, to build these widgets that you see here. These are all called widgets. So these dialogues, right? To make any, to edit any content in your website, this dialog that you see, all these things are built by the developer. Components that show up are built by the developer. The templates, pages, everything is created by the developer. The templates especially, not the pages. So you are going to understand all of that. Okay. This is the classic view. The moment you see something in green, this mode is called classic. So what are these widgets that you see? What framework is it based out of? So what do I mean by a widget? So if you see, this is a widget, this is a second widget. So this one is a text widget, and this one is a text area widget. So basically all these are based out of EXTJS framework. Anybody knows Sencha? Like anybody has worked on Sencha framework earlier? Any UI guys on the call? So somebody told me, hey, what is this exit.js? So I told, no, it's not exit.js, it's EXTJS. So some people do this mistake. Okay, remember it's EXTJS. Okay, so basically EXTJS is used, it was previously used for the mobile development, right, where you had all the widgets and everything. So it was an initial framework which you have these widgets that you see. You don't need to write any code to render this. All you need to do is EXTJS, you have the JavaScript embedded into the library, you are good to go and reuse it. Okay, we are going to build these dialogues in the future. At that point it will be clear. So the first interview question somebody asked me, right, what is your classic UI based out of? It is based out of EXTJS. Okay, any questions till this point? So what is the index page URL? This is the index page URL, welcome.html. And if I want to open up any page, how to, what prefix I need to, this will remain the same even on touch. The only thing that changes on touch UI is this URL. Instead of CF hash, it will be something else. Okay. Now, what is the next view? It is touch UI. So when was this touch UI introduced? This was introduced starting version 5.6.1 onwards. Does anybody know the history of what are all the versions available in AEM? Okay. So some of the versions currently, which is the latest version that everybody would know.
6.3.
Yeah.
6.3.
So before that,
6.2.
6.2.
before that,
6.1.
before that.
6.0 I think, and before that 5.6.
Okay, you're right. Unfortunately, 5.9 was not there. I don't know why. 5.6.
Even after 5.6, nothing was there. It just directly came to 6.0.
5.6.1. 5.5. 5.4. 5. I think it should be enough, right? So, in the market, this was launched in April. This was launched last year. This was launched 2014. In fact, 14. 13, 14, 6 and 6.1. 2013 beginning, this was there. Right? This has been the evolution. When Adobe, initially it was day software till this point. It was called day CQ. So if somebody says day CQ, and then Adobe acquired in 2010, and Adobe thought, let's not call it day. Day was a Switzerland-based company, and it was started in 1994 out of a place called Basel in Switzerland. And then Adobe renamed this as Adobe CQ. And then Adobe thought, let's eliminate the CQ as well. So starting 5.6.1 onwards, it's called AEM. So it's all one and the same. If somebody says, have you worked on CQ? Right, it means there are 2 years, there is a big generation gap between you and them. Okay? So always refer as AEM. Okay. Now, having said that, so starting 5.6.1 onwards, Adobe introduced something called Touch UI. So what is the concept, or what was the reasoning behind introducing this framework? So like yesterday we discussed that Adobe have a market, they are number one in the digital marketing cloud, and they have various solutions. So AEM is just a CMS aspect, like building of websites. Other than that, you have Adobe Analytics, you have Adobe Target, you have Adobe Social, you have Adobe Campaign Management, all these solutions. Now what they thought was, as a digital marketeer, I want to have a consistent experience across all these platforms, which means I want to have something like a similar look and feel, so that a guy who knows analytics will find it easy to navigate, easy to use the widgets, look and feel is familiar to him. Okay? So they introduced something called Touch UI, which has a black colored background, and all the widgets, the look and feel, the experience is similar across all the solutions. So if you see how to go to the Touch UI, right, all you need to do is the index page, first of all, 4502. Okay. In Classic, what was the URL? Does anybody remember the index page URL?
Welcome.html.
In Classic, the moment you do welcome.html, that it is something like a shorthand URL. It is getting replaced with a larger URL. We'll understand how in the future. The same thing for Classic Touch UI, it will be server name followed by port number. You go and say projects.html. The black colored background, this is the look and feel. It will be the similar look and feel when if you open Analytics, Target, you require separate licenses to open those other solutions in the marketing cloud. The same license will not work. So that will also have the same look and feel, like these three dots here. You would see this left rail, and this is a side rail. So all these things you'll have see. Okay? And more importantly, this is a responsive framework. See, the single grid. After I go to a certain breakpoint, it becomes a 2 grid. Then it becomes a 3 column grid. So this is a responsive framework. Now the next question, what framework it is based out of? Classic was based out of EXTJS. This one will be based out of something called as Coral UI. Okay, so Coral UI is Adobe's own framework. So for the touch UI. And the second framework, it is a combination of two things. One is Coral UI and one is Granite UI. Okay, I have added those two here. This is based out of the Granite UI and Coral UI. Okay. Now a page, the same URL, the only thing that changes between the classic UI and the touch UI is this will have editor.html. So let's say how to navigate to the geometrics. Click on sites. And then you will see all the reference sites. The moment I start, this is a fresh installation of the server, which is giving me all these websites. Click on the geometrics demo site. And let's open English. Okay. Now you see this editor.html. No sidekick and all here. Okay. Then you might ask me, hey, how to add one new image or how to add one simple text component here? I'm not seeing anything. So there is a button here, right? It toggles the side panel on the left, and then you will see all the components here. Okay, and this is a listing of all the components. And let's say I want to add a simple image component. All I need to do is drag the image component here, and then how to add an image. So the assets is also here. Just go and drag, put this asset here. Is this clear? Do you see this? How to edit this text? Look at the look and feel here. More importantly, yeah, you see this guy? This guy adjusts. Yeah. The look and feel, everything is different here compared to the classic UI. Okay. Any questions on this one, any of you till this point?
Yeah, for this touch UI, you said two UIs. They are built with all these screens. So what is the backend language they use? Language or any
JavaScript. It uses a combination of CSS and JavaScript. They have just named it as Coral UI. It is a combination of three things, in fact: Sling, CSS, and JS. Three things. But EX is just JavaScript and CSS.
Okay.
Can we modify any of those UI components?
Yes, that's exactly what we are. Modify, like what exactly do you mean?
The backend framework, you said it's written on Sling and everything with that one. So is it something we can go on changes so that way it gives a different perspective for authoring?
Yes, we are going to do that. Like my understanding of your question is, can we, instead of the drop down, can we have something like a text, or can I create new widgets here? Is that your question? Like, can I create my own widgets instead of these built-in ones? That's the question?
Right, yes.
Yes, that is possible. Yes.
Okay.
So in this UI, there is no dialog.
This is the dialog. This black color thing that comes up here is the dialog. Okay, this is
okay.
Black theme, black background, the widget look and feel, everything. This will be the same across all analytics, target, or all solutions of Adobe. Okay, now is the time for questions. People who could not ask that point, continue.
Hey Rajesh, when you logged into the Touch UI, you actually got that left navigation, right? Could you please go to the home page once?
Okay. Let me close this. This one, is it?
Yeah, you are getting that Adobe Marketing Cloud. I'm getting as Adobe Experience Manager, so I'm just wondering what exactly is the difference in between your installation and my installation. If you see on the top, go to the last button window.
This one?
Yeah, there you are seeing that the pancake navigation and then English version, all those things in the project sides. Actually, what happens to me is like I get on the top black bar where I click on that one and
You are on what version of AEM?
6.2.
Yeah, I'm on 6.1. Yeah, service pack. The 6.2 is this is my office mission. So tomorrow I will have the 6.2. When I'm distributing with you, I will give you 6.2 only. So that's the reason you will have a different version.
Oh, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I've seen this one long back, but I not seen in 6.2. So, anyways,
Yeah.
thank you.
You know how to find out the version, right?
Yeah. It's on the bundles, right? System console bundles.
That's one way. Or you could also look at the version here at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, now if you see, there is something called as the route mapping, okay, which means after giving the 4502, right? After giving 4502, if I add a route slash, it's the route mapping. That slash indicates route. We'll understand why it is route tomorrow. But when I enter this, what kind of UI it is routing me to?
Touch UI.
Correct. So some projects don't use touch UI. Some projects are still on classic, which means this is a production requirement. I'm not, my authors don't know touch UI. They're all trained only on classic UI, and even though I'm on 6.2, I can still continue to use the classic UI because it gives me, it's more stable and it gives me more benefits. So you will understand this. So when I give this root URL, how do I redirect to classic instead of the touch? Anybody has done this in previous?
I've done that one through the route mapping, the configuration.
Yes. So all these things are server related changes, the behavior of the server. So which is all like a configuration. So all the configurations of your AEM is available in system console. Correct. So some guys already know a lot of things, and I have some guys who are really new. So I have to go in a slow manner. So bear with me, people who already know.
No problem.
Click on configuration and search for. See, when you go here, OSGI configuration, and then look for DSEQ route mapping. Right, the route mapping, I always want to take it to projects.html. Okay, so instead of this, make it welcome.html and save it. Now if I say http localhost 4502, you see this? Okay, so this is the first way. Have I added this in the clusters? Let me check this.
Basically, if I have 3-4 sites in this one site is using the classic UI, the remaining sites are using the touch UI. Is there any way that you can segregate this one, like user basis, site basis? Because this looks like a whole instance configuration, isn't it?
Sorry, Syed, I missed the first part. Please repeat that again.
So this is actually looks like the instance-wide configuration, which actually enforces, even though the touch UI users having their websites on this environment, when they log in, they will go to the classic UI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there any kind of a way that the users can, with the touch UI sites, can go to the touch UI and the non touch UI site.
Usually it is done at the site level only. Like my entire, if I go for Apple, either entire Apple will be on touch or either entire Apple site will be on classic. If the Apple has subdomains, right, then for every domain they map it to a different server. At a server level you cannot, at a site level you cannot bifurcate whether I want few users on classic, few users on touch. It's not possible.
Got it.
But it is possible, anything is possible. The only thing is you will end up making a lot of custom code and build unnecessary custom code.
Absolutely, yeah.
For no business value. Okay, now.
Okay, that means like, I mean, we have only two views, like, I mean, classic or touch UI. So if the client asks like a total different theme, so that means it needs lots of custom code.
Theme is different. What do you mean by theme for a website is different? You know, there is some, yeah.
Yeah, for the user wants to order, so who are the other, so they wants to the different look and feel instead of like either black or green.
At user level, it's definitely not possible.
Okay.
Okay, now I think this was not there in the class. So by default, if my root URL, when I say root URL, it is localhost 4502 to classic or touch. Go to OSGI config and search the DaySeq root mapping config and edit accordingly. Okay. Now another question for people who already know. Let's say when I go to the site admin, okay, when I double click this guy, by default in what URL it is opening? Anybody? What is this kind of mode?
This is the touch UI.
Touch. So when I double click the page, I want it to open on classic only always. How to do that again? Anybody has done that?
No.
Okay. By default, all you need to do is same thing, OSGI config, and let's go here and let's look for forgot the name. Okay, I think it's, yeah, WCM authoring UI mode service. Okay, and here see default authoring is touch. So just go and type classic, save it. And now if I open any page, you see this? Right? Instead of touch, it is opening on classic. Is this clear, guys, all of you?
So have you given classic as the default authoring UI mode over there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
See here?
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so today I'm going to share the jar and the license. I will stop at this point. Go ahead, try to install the server on your machines, JDK, and I think most two people already have it. Who already has it? Syed and Who all require the server?
Yeah, I need the server.
Okay. Rama reads the server. Okay. Ramesh?
Yes, I need it. I need the server.
Okay. Rama, Ramesh. Madhukar?
Yes, Rajesh, I also need the jar.
Okay. Sayed does not require. He is already on a 6.2, right?
It's better to have it. So what is this license? Is this a training
Training.
license provided by Adobe, or is it provided? How exactly is licensing working over here?
The licensing, see, when you enroll into AEM Adobe training,
Okay.
or when you enroll into this, there is a demo license which is available. That is the training one.
Okay.
So you could use the training one on your machine. So what license you are using? Client's license on your machine?
Yeah, I'm using those. I have them running over here. So
Okay, then do one thing. I'll share just the license with, or I'll share the entire thing with you.
I'll take a
Whenever
look.
you want in future, you can use.
Sure.
But does it have a difference between the training version and the other version? It's going to have all the components. Right?
Nothing.
No
Yes,
difference.
all the features, everything will be there.
Okay. So where is the file? You shared it in Dropbox already?
No, not yet. Srinivas, are you on the call?
Hello. Yeah.
Srinivas, like you can send me all the email IDs to which I have to share. I saw 1 or 2 email IDs.
Yeah. Oh, only Rama confirmed, so I shared his email ID, and Syed about to confirm, and others not yet responded for me. So once they responded, I will share with you.
Yes, guys. So basically, you would need to